Frost and his men, they come and attack the hideout. Blade is conveniently not there. He had just met up with Frost. We learned that Frost wore some sunscreen so he could be out in the day. So vampires just discovered sunscreen, like SPF 10,000.
It's like, oh, you're out during the day. It's like, yeah, sunscreen. Ah, damn it.
Damn it.
Banana boat.
Foiled again.
Sunblock.
Hey, what's poppin', corn dogs? Welcome back. We're here. Another episode of Just Play It, one of your new favorite movie review podcasts. We're slipping and dipping a little bit out of spooky season here, but we're still on the tail end of it. So we're landing the plane correctly this week. I'm one of your hosts, Jimmy Popcorn, Jimmy Crackcorn. I'm James,
and I'm Nick, referred to around here as the lead corn dog. And I just want to echo what you said, James. I think this movie is how we properly stick the dismount of spooky season.
Yeah, we're going to stick the landing here because this is spooky adjacent, but not necessarily a scary movie. This does have to do with vampires. And if you're listening to the podcast, I'm sure you've already clicked on it and you've read that we are watching the movie Blade. From
1998.
Guess what, Nick?
What?
We're back in that NCU.
We are.
This is our non-cinematic universe. We're taking movies from the past that have played a part in the greater good or bad of superhero movies in general. This season, we watched 1989's Batman, which is a little bit of a gray area of being in a continuous universe, courtesy of that apparently terrible Flash movie. But Blade, yeah, he's pretty standalone in the movie and in the universe. No team up with this guy. Lots of team ups in the comics, but not in these standalone movies.
Yeah, this is, again, 1998. This is back before there were any plans to create a larger universe or team ups or anything like that. It was just, hey, we have a really popular superhero. He needs a movie. So
we're bringing in Eric Brooks, aka Blade, into the JPI NCU. Come on over. Join the fun. You can fight Hulk, Spawn, Michael Keaton. The whole gang is here.
Yeah, let's find out if this is the best because the NCU so far, as listeners know, has not been spectacular, has not been our cup of tea.
Let's go over the numbers real quick. So currently, Hulk, and this is pre-re-ratings at the end of the year, in case any of this changes. Currently, the JPI score for Hulk 2003 is a 3.05. Spawn, which came next, a dismal 1.25.
Can we say a generous 1.25?
Yes. Spawn's definitely, whatever score you give that movie, it's going to be generous if it's positive points. Batman has been our strongest outing so far with an average of 7.6. 1989's Batman. So we'll see where this one lands. This is our last NCU movie of the year. So hopefully we can end it on a good note. I'm feeling optimistic after our rough start here.
It's been a rough go the last couple of weeks.
This whole season, actually, all spooky season, I feel like we had our best movies so far and our absolute worst.
You're right. I think Maximum Overdrive is overshadowing. I actually really enjoyed our spooky season movies.
Yeah, and can I just say this? I want to point out a fun fact, and we completely missed it in the month of October, Nick. We're on and including this movie, we're on a 5-movie streak of directors making cameos, because we had, obviously, M. Night Shyamalan was a featured character in Signs. Stephen King showed up at the ATM machine in Maximum Overdrive. Wes Craven, Scream. He played, correct me if I'm wrong, the Freddy Krueger type janitor.
He did.
When I was researching The Thing.
John Carpenter, I think he was on the film of the
Yes, he's on the Norwegian video footage.
Yes, very hard to see, but he was there.
So I was thinking, oh man, that was a fun fact we failed to mention last week on our review of The Thing. And then in this movie, the director, this movie's directed by Stephen Norrington. He makes a cameo too. He's that vampire on the corner sucking the blood out of some floozy on the street corner. I think it was a hoe bag, to put it lightly. I think it was during the car chase scene.
Right afterwards, yeah, when they pull up to where they were chasing the police officer.
So yeah, 5 movies, and that makes me that had me thinking. I think we got to look out for uncredited guys here because
we need to give it a name.
Well, we'll think of something good for sure.
We will.
Uncredited corn. That's the first one that's coming up. We're so corn centric here on Just Play It because we love popcorn, we love movies, and that's why we're doing this.
We can call it a corny cameo.
A corneo. We'll workshop it.
Not married to anything yet.
We'll discuss this offline.
Well, let's dive a little more into this movie, James. Like you said, directed by Stephen Norrington and cameo by Stephen Norrington. Our lead actors here are Wesley Snipes, of course. Everybody knows Wesley Snipes and Blade. Stephen Dorff and Chris Christopherson. Yeah,
Wesley Snipes. I feel like he was at the height of his career in the 90s. You had New Jack City, White Man Can't Jump, Demolition Man. Yeah.
Love Demolition Man. Yeah, he's one of those actors you'd be surprised. You know all of his big stuff, and if you go back and look through his whole career pre-tax evasions.
Oh, what?
Are you not aware of this?
I'm unaware of this.
Oh, yeah, he had some terrible tax evasion deals. Refused to pay his taxes, got into a lot of trouble. Didn't act there for a bit, I believe. And now I think he's doing a lot more acting, trying to get some money to settle up a lot of his outstanding tax deal. So yeah,
who else
it's a big
did
thing.
That we were talking about? Nicolas Cage.
Well, Nicolas Cage just spent way too much money. Not tax evasion,
but I mean, just like he kept acting because he just needed the money.
Yeah.
And then of course there was Randy Quaid, who was enemy of the show.
Yeah, he was convicted on income tax in 2008.
Wesley Snipes.
Yeah, willful failure to file federal income tax returns. It was sentenced to 4 years, but ended up serving only 28 months in prison.
Oh, damn.
I say only. That's still...
regular old Al Capone.
Yeah. If you didn't know, Wesley Snipes had some tax issues. Obviously, this is 10 years before any of that.
I guess that's why I never really... he felt like he was kind of MIA for a second there. I feel like I don't see him in a lot of movies. Yeah, I guess he was literally in prison. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
Stephen Dorff, I don't really know a whole lot about this guy. Just looking at his rap sheet here, I can't really point out anything noteworthy or even stuff that I've seen.
The name sounds more familiar than the resume.
Also, Chris Christopherson. That name sounds familiar, but this guy looks like a Kurt Russell meets Jeff Bridges mashup.
Meets Nick Nolte. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, yeah. He's just like he's the crusty old man template.
Yeah. So I know Chris Christopherson really well because he is also an amazing country singer and was throughout the 70s. He's actually in the Country Music Hall of Fame. Has collaborated with Dolly Partons of the world. He knew Johnny Cash and June Carter back in the day. A very multi-talented man.
Maybe that's why he was in the original A Star Is Born.
Yes, that would make a lot of sense. So yeah, he's a very talented person. I know him more for his music, being a country music fan, but he also has quite a few acting credits to his name.
I think we also got to shout out N. Bush, right? The name is capital N apostrophe capital B U-S-H-E. So I'm assuming it's Nabush or N. Bush.
In Bush. I don't know.
The Bushness is in here. This actress plays Karen. She's like the main love interest, and she has quite a big role in this movie. So I think we'll shout out the Bushels over here.
Yeah.
Apologies if I'm pronouncing your name wrong.
Very small acting credits.
Right. I see she was in one episode of The Chappelle Show, which is the only thing I'm seeing that I would have watched on her IMDb. Yeah, not a whole lot here. So a couple new faces for me.
Same.
Well, let's get into the budget here. This movie had an estimated budget of $45 million. And it went on to gross $131 million. So very successful. We're looking at a 292% return.
You take that
off the original budget. Do you want to just jump into this?
I think that's the best way forward. Let's do this. I'll hit you with the log line, and then we can do our thing, buddy.
Real quick, have you seen this before?
Yes. This is a movie
How many
This is
times?
Jerry Justice.
I was gonna say, this has your dad's name
Staple
written all over it.
Yeah, handful. I don't know. I can't give you an exact number, but I've seen it enough times to know the movie. My father's actually visiting this week, so we rewatched it together.
Nice,
which was a lot of fun. And so this is a staple.
Jerry Justice is a Just Play It legend because he's seen every single movie. We should bring him on one day.
Was this a new one for you though?
This was a new watch for me. I've never seen Blade, any of the original trilogy of Blade.
Okay.
So I was excited to watch this. I was ready.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna hit you with that log line.
Hit me.
A half vampire, half mortal man becomes a protector of the mortal race while slaying evil vampires.
Let's see how he does that in plot talk. Plot talk.
All right, so we get a quick chaotic opening here. We're doing the thing where we like flash cut a scene and then we get an actor name, then a scene, then an actor name.
I think it says 1967. We're in a hospital of some sort. Not of some sort. We're in a hospital.
We have it's some sort of medical facility.
This building looks like some sort of hospital.
So we have this pregnant woman on a gurney, and she is getting rushed down a hallway. Doctors surrounding her. Vital machines are beeping. It's just very chaotic scene. She's in labor, but she's also pretty bloody. And you know what the movie's about. You've read the log line. You're like, we got vampires in this movie. So her neck is bloody, and we're like, she done been vampired.
After 5 minutes of this movie, we're like, oh, she died. But Eric Brooks lived, her son, and he's given special abilities that we learn about later.
So that's pretty much all we get for the origin story of Blade. Eric Brooks, Blade, obviously played by Wesley Snipes. Mom, save the baby. Mom dies. And then we cut forward to modern day. I think there's a title card that I thought was interesting. Actually, I did want to bring it up. It doesn't say a specific year. It just says now. And I was like, I think I like that. I like when a movie does that because you don't know what year you're going to be in. So just say now.
And present day is so played out. So now is cool.
It goes to what is an overarching theme I'll bring up multiple times. Even in this opening scene, you get like now. There's a lot of like flash cuts and blurred lights. It's a very stylized movie, which I think for like 98 was, I wouldn't say cutting edge, but different.
It reminded me so much of The Matrix, just the whole vibe and styles and costumes. And it came out a year before that. So I thought, oh, maybe it was cutting edge.
Yeah. So our first scene after this intro, we get these two young people. You could tell something's off already. There's a young gal, young guy, and they drive to this. The guy's like, where are you taking me? She's like, it's a surprise.
He's all simping and she's looking all like sly and devilish in the driver's seat. And I'm like, oh, this chick is a vampire for show.
Yeah. There was never really like, is this person a vampire? Is this not? It was, everything was pretty obvious.
There's a couple of those, but.
So she takes them to this back room behind a butcher shop. That's like this rave. And they're having a great time. Raves going on. All of a sudden, the sprinkler heads open. It's just blood everywhere.
And there's like meat hooks hanging from the ceiling. This seems like a super dangerous place to have a rave.
Yeah.
People on drugs and drunk and just meat hooks are just in hand's reach. Someone just jumps up and grabs it.
And then all of a sudden, everybody's a vampire except for, is it just this guy? Is it just the only non-vampire at this rave?
I believe so. There is because the blood comes on and I took it as a shark smelling blood, like the whole pack. And then they're looking at this fresh human like, ooh, yeah, someone brought paella to the club.
I love paella.
Well, me too. It's a communal dish. That's why I said that.
So good. Paella. So he tries to crawl away. Vampires are chasing him, and he crawls into this pair of black boots, and everything stops. Music stops. Everybody kind of backs up. They start like hissing at this figure. And then we get our first look of Blade. Now, what'd you think? First look.
Sick.
It's super badass.
Yeah, sick. I mean, black clothing will never go out of style, especially when it's badass.
Black trench coat, black boots, black pants,
leather jacket, black armor, black shotgun,
jet black sunglasses.
Yep.
Yeah. Blade goes to town on these vampires.
Right here. I was like, show me what you got. New Line Cinema in 1998. Show me what you got. And I wasn't disappointed. I loved it. It was really good.
Yeah.
Really good coordinated action sequence. CGI is always the talking point in this podcast. Very forgivable for the time.
It has to be wildly offensive for me to shit on CGI from 25 years ago.
Yeah, or just like blatantly obvious that times have changed. Now there are those Spawn. There are those movies that revisit them and do update the CGI. So I don't want to say would you call that cheating or just maintenance?
As long as you put remastered in the title, then I'm like, okay, I know you mess with this. I'm okay with it. If you try to go back and sneak it in.
Because Star Wars does that all the time.
Oh, they're constantly remastering the old ones. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, it almost becomes a weird trip, man. Like you're trying to think like, well, am I supposed to take this for gospel if you're going to constantly update it? Like adding the Anakin ghost or just adding like the CGI singer at Jabba the Hutt's place. It's almost like they're messing with us, like the Mandela effect. You're just like, no, that was always there. Like, no, it wasn't.
Revamping the lightsaber fights. And then you get the weird, like, old footage. You know, you could just tell when a movie's old, just the film that is used. And then you get the good effects overlaid on it. It looks unnatural. Not like lightsabers are natural, but it's just, you're like, what? You didn't need to do this. We loved it. We forgave the old CGI. Like, nobody was like, wow, that sucked. So Blade comes in. James, did you notice one of his weapons of choice?
A shotgun?
He had a shotgun. He had a
blade,
sword.
A sword, obviously.
He has the silver stakes.
Yeah.
And he has a glaive.
Oh, yeah.
Did you notice his throwing glaive?
It's not like a glaive.
I wrote that down immediately. I was like, glaive. He's got a glaive.
Kroll did it first. It's like a two-sided switchblade boomerang, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's where the glaive is 5 legs there. It's a star shape.
I'm just calling it a glaive. So
I think it's we can refer to it as son of glaive.
Son of glaive. So the fight scene ends where,
or would it be Glade?
It's fresh. So the fight scene ends with Blade. We have this one vampire, Quinn. He'll be coming up throughout the movie. This is played by Donald Logue. You'll recognize this guy's face.
Who I recognize from like a bunch of stuff, like sitcoms. I want to say he was in Sons of Anarchy.
He was in Sons of Anarchy. A lot of times he plays a cop or a dirty cop. That's like his go-to role.
Like Michael Rappaport.
Yeah.
He's a comedian and he always plays like a dirty cop or like some tough guy New Yorker. Same phenomenon with this guy.
So there's this guy and he sticks him to the wall and then he's like, I've tried to cut you up so many times. Let's see if fire works. Sets him on fire. The police show up and Blade takes off. And the police are like, put him out. You're like, is this an everyday occurrence? Like my first question was,
yeah.
Do they just know vampires are there and like Blade's doing his thing?
It could be one of the corrupt ones because they do reveal later that they're everywhere.
Then we learn.
They're in the police department. They're in
politics.
So it could be one of the corrupt ones who just knows what's going on.
That's what I thought later on when they said that. I was like, okay, my previous question answered. The police take this vampire who they later call Crispy. This is Quinn, to the hospital. And we have Dr. Curtis Webb, who's just some rando. And then we have our hematologist, Karen Jensen. And this is in Bush.
And so I'm looking at this character and I'm thinking, okay, you're young, you're super attractive, and you're a doctor. You're probably going to be the love interest.
Have to be, yeah.
It's right
up in your face. They're talking about the blood. They're like, this blood is weird, is crazy. Crispy, Quinn, shoots up off the table, kills her friend, bites Karen, and then runs off because Blade comes there. And he's, Blade's, whenever something bad's happening in this movie, Blade's 2 steps behind. And
not necessarily a bad way, 2 steps behind. He's coming up.
No, physically 2 steps behind you.
Oh,
he's there.
He's very sneaky.
There's one part he like jumps off a fence and you don't even hear his boots hit the ground.
Oh my God. I wrote down because, as you know, we've talked subtitles before. I'll throw it on for pure information only when watching movies for this podcast. But when that happens on the subtitles, It says in parentheses, land silently.
They wanted you to know.
It was an important part of the plot, so it actually had to be pointed out.
Karen's bit, and usually we learn Blade, if there's someone who's infected, you just kill them there. Keep it easy. For some reason, Blade decides to bring her to the safe house.
This was also a little confusing because we get that flashback moment of his mom
Looks like his mom
on the hospital bed, but that's weird because he wouldn't know what she looked like because he was literally in the womb.
Maybe his vampire powers that let him see back to it.
Yeah, so it's the same footage as the flashback, and so he's like, "Oh no, this lady kind of looks like my mom," which is weird because I'm gonna definitely bang her. I do want to point out something crazy that happens. He freaking yeets Karen across the street. I think he busts out the window. And there's a building across the street that's got to be 3 stories down. And the street is like 50 feet across, if not 70.
It's a city. It's a city block, and it's probably 6 lanes wide. And he's going to the building across the street from the hospital.
And it's in the dark. This is nighttime, and he just sees like a whole pile of stuntmen, empty cardboard boxes underneath a tarp, and he's like, perfect.
Like one hand yeets her.
When that happened, I was like, okay, she's dead.
There's also later on a little girl who gets yeeted through a bunch of glass into the street who survives. So people can really people can really survive a yeeting in this movie.
There's a lot of yeets going around.
So Blade brings her to his safe house, and she gets treated by Blade's friend, Abraham Whistler, just called Whistler in the movie. And this is Chris Christopherson. And here, this is where Whistler explains to Karen that he and Blade have been waging a secret war against the vampires using weapons based on like their weaknesses. So I like this part because they're building the world, right? They're like, this what you know about vampires is bull jive. This is garbage. That doesn't work. Here are the actual things that do work. And here are the weapons we use. So I'm like, okay, piecing together what the rules are of our fighting in our universe here. This is where he silently jumps as well.
Yeah, because I think Karen wakes up and she's trying to sneak out of there, but they're like, we can't keep you out of our sights because you might turn into a vampire.
This is where Karen does something that I hate, and like it's usually like the damsel in distress, although she is not that for the whole movie, but you usually get this in these kind of movies where they're like, and you actually believe this? It's like, bitch, you just saw this vampire wake up from a charred crisp, bite you in the neck, kill your partner, and then run off. Like this is out of the realm. And this is where Whistler's like, I think you already met Crispy.
It's weird that you're denouncing it.
It's more awkward that you're not concerned. Come on. They tell Karen that she's marked by the vampire, and they need to leave the city before sundown, right? Because that's when vampires come out, because they can't come out in the sunlight.
Yeah, I don't like that pesky sun.
She's like, where am I supposed to go? And Blade's like, I don't care.
Yeah, he's like, you're an established doctor in the city of Los Angeles, but you need to move right now and just leave.
We also learned that Blade just has a lot of one-liners.
Mm-hmm.
The script does not do justice to Wesley Snipes' acting abilities, because I think Wesley Snipes is a good actor, and this has a lot of similarities to Spawn.
So many similarities to Spawn, and this will definitely, this is too big of a topic to tackle right now, so we're going to talk about it after the fact, but so much similarities.
Yeah.
Even like the little bit low tone of like the deep voice, Spawn, I think was a little bit overdone. Wesley Snipes is definitely doing a little bit low impersonation of his own voice.
Big time. So we have 2 parallel stories that are going on for the first hour 15 that'll eventually converge. So our second storyline here is of the vampires. So we have this meeting, this like council meeting, big table of these pureblood vampire elders. They're mostly Russian, or like Lithuanian, I guess would be the lore of vampires.
They're definitely pushing the Slavic Eastern European agenda about the vampires, which I think in folklore, where it kind of originated, or at least in storytelling, that's the origin of vampires is always somewhere in that region of Europe for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
Put a pin in that, because I'm a call something out later.
All right. We're introduced to this character, Deacon Frost. who we learned owned that nightclub that the rave massacre happened at. And he's the leader of like a faction of younger vampires, we'll say more progressive vampires, who really want to start a war between the vampires and humans. He's very much, we're better than them. Why are we hiding in the shadows? We should just go out and straight murder them. The vampire elders are like, no, that's not what we do. This is how we do things.
Relax.
There's this tension because Frost is not a natural born vampire. He was what they call turned. Right, he was bitten by a vampire and became a vampire.
This was interesting. I did like this. I did like the politics at play amongst vampires, which is not a real thing. But I thought it was an interesting conflict in the secret world of vampires, because Blade and Whistler do explain to Karen, hey, there's a whole secret war happening that you don't even know about. We're trying to kill all these vampires. They live among us. They're in our hospitals, our police departments, fire departments, lawyers, whatever. And so to see like an inner conflict of the vampire scene, I thought was an interesting dynamic, especially when it has to do with generations and different types. It's almost like the muggles and the wizards and witches. Like there was like that animosity of like, oh, are you pure blood or are you muggle blood? Shout out Hermione.
Shout out, you muggle. We're getting a good glimpse into the social hierarchy and the politics at play within the vampires.
And Stephen Dorff, who plays Frost, he's definitely like the young hotshot. Like, I don't even think he does this in the movie, but I can definitely picture him sitting in a chair with his leg up and his arm on it, twisting an apple and throwing it up in the air, and just like a lot of entitlement for being so young when he has all these superiors who made him, literally.
Yeah, I feel like he's missing just a pinky ring in that situation. He definitely seems like a pinky ring where
puka shell necklace or something for the times,
Big puka shell guy, big puka shell vibes. So meanwhile, we go back to Karen. She returns to her apartment and she's like packing things up, and she gets scared in her apartment by this police officer named Officer Krieger. He's like, "Whoa, like what's going on? Like you seem jumpy."
All right, I'm gonna stop you right here.
She had already, yeah.
Did you think, I mean, you've seen this a million times apparently, but did you suspect that he was a vampire or that he was actually safe?
Vampire, because they made it very clear. They showed the shot of her closing her door after she had just been scared out in the hallway. And then when he comes in, he's like, the door was open. And I'm like, no, I know the door's not open. I watched the door close. So you're obviously bad.
I don't know why my mind went straight to race, but I was like, I don't trust any white people in this movie. Because like we focus a lot.
Except Whistler.
Whistler is the exception. He's the token white guy that we can trust. And all other white people are bad. I don't think there's one good white person.
Well, the white guy who was going to be dinner at the rave, I guess.
Yeah, that's a one-off.
White guy who got eaten up by Crispy.
But I was just like, we're focusing a lot on Eric Brooks and Karen. And I was like, sweet, 2 black characters that are badass. I want to point out Karen, she traded in the white coat for the black leather jacket real quick. She's like, screw this doctor shit. I got to stick with Blade and put on this black leather jacket and go kick some ass. She does make a business decision because she's like, I need to stick with you because I'm going to die otherwise. And it's because it starts with this very incident right here.
She makes one blunder and Blade's like, you got to pull the trigger. And then from then on out, she's like, all right, pulling the trigger.
Oh yeah. She has no problem doing it later.
So we have our police officer Krieger, now who's not a vampire. Karen is actually given like a pepper spray, but it's garlic spray. Whistler and Blade, like, here, this is to protect yourself. You don't need to, I'm not going to give you a gun. I don't know you, but here's some garlic spray. And she sprays him. And she's like, they said it would work on vampires. And he's like, I'm not a vampire.
And I'm like, oh, man, he ain't a vampire, but he's working for him.
Of course, he goes to attack Karen. And who's 2 steps behind him?
Dude, I was like, oh, shit. Like, Blade's here. He showed up.
He's using Karen as bait. He was like, I know he's coming. So we learned that there is these people called familiars. They're owned by vampires, basically. They all have tattoos on their neck. They are.
Well, Blade calls them like
vampires.
He's like he's a hoe or like a prostitute. He's somebody's bitch.
Like, nice.
So it's like a cattle branding.
So they work for the vampires. because at first you're like, wow, how are there this many vampires that haven't taken over the world? You're like, oh, there's a lot of vampires, but then there's even more of these people working for the vampires.
Bitches.
I think they all, like, that they were saying is like a lot of them wanted to be turned eventually, like be turned into a vampire. Like if you do really good, we'll let you become a vampire.
You can get that vampire promotion.
You could get vamped up. Of course, Blade whoops Krieger's ass, basically beats him to a pulp in Karen's apartment.
He had no chance.
And look at you, you haven't even got a name tag. You got no chance.
Karen's like, is this necessary? And Blade looks at her and he's just like, I'm going to keep beating this ass. They eventually get enough information out of him to find out that he's Deacon Frost's biatch.
Mm-hmm.
And he's delivering blood to Deacon. And so this is where Blade's like, all right, we'll follow him and we're going to see where this blood goes.
Blood run.
The blood does end up going to a...
Is this where the car chase is?
Yes.
Okay.
The car chase was funny.
Car chase seemed a little phoned in.
So you could tell the car chase was just driven in normal speed and then the footage sped up because there's no sway on the vehicles.
It was almost
so like the turn is
like a few weeks ago when we watched Batman. He throws like a grapple on a pole on the corner, and it's supposed to be this dramatic, like, oh, he was going so fast, the grapple helped him make that turn. But it was just he just made a normal 90-degree left turn and sped up the footage. So this car chase is nothing special. The best action sequences are definitely the fight scenes. They could have cut this one out, especially for rocking the Dominic Toretto Charger. Because that is Blade's whip. And Blade had it first. He had it before Fast and Furious came out.
One thing I'll give him credit for that I'm like, okay, I realize you're phoning this in. I get it. They do make the scene highly stylized in like the fast cuts, the blurred like tail lights and the blurred traffic lights. And they do like cuts left and right. And it's not necessarily a chase scene. It's more of like a mini montage showing that they're following him.
And of course, with techno music. There's a lot of techno music in this movie.
So I think they were like trying to like cover it up a bit, trying to like paint a brush on this scene. They're like, we know it's not a great chase scene. We're going to try and do fast cuts and kind of take you out of the actual chase element of it. I'm not sure if that makes it better or worse, but I was like,
But you can't throw that generic tire squeal noise at me. It's like that. Do you know that sound clip of a clay pot breaking? And it's just like a generic sound clip that plays in every single movie.
Yeah,
it was like that moment, but the tire squeal.
Oh, dude, the SFX in this movie are the punch effects, the sword effects.
I was gonna say, last week you thought there was a lot of fake punches in last week's episode. No, this is all about those fake punch sound effects. So much.
Blade knows a lot of martial arts, and there's a lot of, even when his hands are moving, there's a lot of like wind moving, like.
Love those.
Yeah. After following him, they end up finding this location where they keep all this blood, and they find where they keep the vampire archives, and eventually what they call the Vampire Bible.
And this is this before or after they meet Jabba the Hutt?
This is just before, so we are
okay. Because meanwhile, Frost is trying to decode this ancient vampire language from this vampire Bible. And all the elder vampires are like, you can't do it. No one knows how to do it. So he's trying to do that in the background as well.
Yes.
But Blade and Karen, they make it down to this kind of vault.
Mm-hmm.
Now, were these scripture pages supersized? Because they're like 8 feet tall in glass cases.
They were saying it's the original. So like maybe they were like scrolls. Maybe they're so old they were like scrolls.
I feel like the letters were huge.
They could be big on scrolls. I have no idea. I really don't. Yeah, they were the size. They're probably like 8 feet high, 3 feet wide, and they're all hanging like encased in glass. It made for a cool ambiance. James, you want to come up? Tell everybody about Jabba the Hutt since you brought him up.
Yeah. So before we meet Jabba the Hutt, Frost has like a super 90s computer algorithm running, trying to decode it. And I was thinking, like, what software is this? What was this about? Now, this Jabba the Hutt character, who is called Pearl, is a super fat dude who is just posted up in a bed down in this weird basement archives somewhere, separate room area. And was he the one decoding it? for Frost? Is that what I was gathering? Like he was acting as the computer? Was he like inputting information in a computer downstairs?
I couldn't quite tell.
Because I was like, there's no way, if no one knows this dead ass language, how's a computer going to know it? People who invented computers don't even know vampires exist. So I took it as Pearl was inputting info because he's too fat and he can't get up and go upstairs and tell Frost. I took it as he was decoding stuff because he's the keeper of the archive. So he's just being a World of Warcraft South Park guy in his basement, not leaving his chair for 24 hours on end, and being the brain behind the scenes of the decoding operation. That's what I thought was happening.
I could see that.
Yeah, he's a morbidly obese vampire, and Blade and Karen run up on this guy with his shirt off and his pants. I think he's naked.
But his rolls cover him up, so it's like he's that fat.
Oh, he was like blue or light green or white.
I think the like white, like pale white. Whatever light was reflecting off of the computer screens was being reflected off of his skin.
The images I'm pulling up are just horrifying. It looks like this 1,000-pound retired sumo wrestler is in a dark, windowless room watching late night television that has no color and it's just all light blue light coming off a TV screen.
He looks like if Fat Bastard let himself go.
Obviously, this fat ass can't get up and do anything. So Blade is interrogating him, and they hold him hostage with vampire weapons like UV light. That's where I'm seeing that Karen is a bit of a savage because she was all shaky on the trigger with the guns and whatnot and nervous walking down hallways. But for this fat, helpless vampire, she is just ruthless with this UV light, and she looks like she's enjoying it.
Oh, she is.
Because Blade says, "Hey, light this guy up if he moves."
What is that?
That biscuit boy is a UV lamp. We're gonna play a little game of 20 questions. Depending on how you answer, you may walk out of here with a tan. If he moves, fry him.
He moved.
Even Blade was like, "What the hell, Karen? You better watch Karen. She's crazy."
She's a little drunk with power right now. They do learn from Pearl, that what Frost is trying to do is recreate some sort of vampire ritual that would awaken the blood god named La Magra.
Which he finds out from decoding the thing, right?
Yeah. We also learn later on, because Blade is half and half, what they call a daywalker, his blood is the key to bringing forth the blood god.
So we thought, is this a situation where he's supposed to be some sort of prophet?
He's like the chosen one, some sort of prophecy that one day there will be a daywalker and his blood can bring back the blood god.
And he's part of this predestined event that is happening, not to be meta, but now. When you're half and half, you're hoping you got the best of both worlds. And it really seemed like Blade does.
He does. Because
he's got the super strength, the super speed, the stealthiness, but he can walk around in the daylight. And I was like, what's the downside of being him? The downside of this Blade is that he is also bloodthirsty, and he needs some sort of suppressant.
It's referred to as the thirst.
So thirsty.
He needs blood.
Got that thirst.
So thirsty. This serum, though, is starting to lose its effect because of its overuse, and his body's built up a tolerance to it. And so, like, there's this subplot going on throughout the film where he's constantly needing his serum to stay on top of his game. Otherwise, the thirst consumes him. But Karen, luckily, is a hematologist, and that is someone who works on blood, and she can synthesize some sort of replacement or can cure him of this, which he would like. He doesn't like these powers. He hates that he's half vampire, thinks he's a monster. The most open he gets is in this scene with Karen, where he's like, "You don't know me, I'm a monster, yada yada." And so he would gladly turn back into a human if he could.
But I don't know if he would.
Well, he says he would. He doesn't like being at this point in time.
When they set this up, I'm thinking, okay, interesting decision here if that time ever comes, because if he decides to go back full human, then he can't effectively hunt down every single vampire in the world, because he'll lose his super strength, his super speed, agility, stealthness. if he were to go 100% human. So I was like, okay, they're setting up some sort of choice, possibly.
Yes. Karen does synthesize some sort of serum to cure him, but it when it mixes with vampire blood, it just explodes.
It's just splody.
Yeah, it's like, oh.
Not what I was going for, but I can use this.
While Blade is out, Frost and his men attack the hideout, infect Whistler, which is sad. The one thing we didn't mention about when they were at the archives is Blade does get jumped, and then Whistler comes in and just cleans house. Whistler's a badass.
I did want to point out that when they get jumped in the archives, I took it as Blade used Karen as bait for the cop, but then little 200 IQ play from Frost. Frost used the cop as bait for Blade because they brought him into the archives, and then they wanted to like jump his ass, and that's when they wanted to obtain his blood. So I was like, oh, okay. Well, the little smart guy villain over here.
Well. How the turntables...
Well, he knew Blade was there because Blade talked to him on the computer.
But he wanted him to get there and where they can like pin him down in that weird basement scripture thing.
Mm-hmm.
Whistler shows up in the nick of time. Like the crusty old mentor, almost sidekick role. He enters the scene by saying,
"Catch you fuckers at a bad time."
A lot more swearing in this movie than I thought there was. I forgot how...
Rated R.
Yeah.
Rated R Marvel.
You've been listening in the whole time?
Keeping radio contact.
Think I'd let him run loose without a chaperone?
Sully, you beautiful son of a bitch!
There's a whole nother stylized fight scene. It leads into the subway. It's great.
Quinn gets his arm cut off.
Yeah, I guess it's like a running bit.
Quinn's constantly getting his arm cut off.
He's constantly losing his arms. I do want to point something out because Blade and Karen literally catch a train out of there because Blade reaches out and grabs a train that's going full speed. I just thought again, I was like, oh man, my shoulder hurts watching that. My rotator cuff would be pulled out. Finally, we get some realistic shoulder dislocation. Even Vampire Blade is not impervious to this. He dislocates his shoulder because I thought immediately back to Cutthroat Island when...
Oh, the whiplash scene.
What's his nuts? Yeah, they're on the rope and he catches Morgan and just dead stop. Just would have yanked the arm out. And Cruel? Or was it The Thing? It just happened recently. Oh, man.
Well, that kind of stuff happens in Batman all the time.
Oh, it was Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was at the end when they were hanging on the ledge. And then, what's her face? Vicky Vale grabs Joker's fake hand and then she's about to fall. And then I think that's when it was like another like shoulder dislocation incident. I was like, oh God, like that would have tore it out the socket.
Well, Batman falls down the side of the building to grab her, and then he shoots his grapple back up, and then the grapple hooks on, and they just
that was it. That was it. So I was like, finally, even vampires, superhumans aren't impervious to shoulder injuries. So about someone put respect on the shoulder game.
Yeah, come on. These joints are doing a lot of work, man.
I need realism somewhere.
Frost and his men, they come and attack the hideout. Blade is conveniently not there. He had just met up with Frost, and I guess Blade was off doing something else in this time now. And Frost and his men make their way to the hideout. And this is where Whistler gets attacked. Karen gets abducted. Whistler gets curb stomped by Frost. Frost like beats his face in with his boot.
Yeah, it was pretty graphic.
And then they infect him. Which is like Whistler's worst nightmare.
That sucked, man. I was a big Whistler fan because he kind of started out as like a grumpy old man, very, very sloppily pumping gas into the Charger. Like there's loose gasoline on the Charger and he just lights up a cigarette. I was like, this guy is reckless.
This guy does not care.
And then when he comes in and saves Blade and Karen, we're getting to know him. He had a family. He raised Eric Brooks. And you're like, oh, okay, a little bit of a soft side to this guy. And then, boom, that's when they rip your heart out.
He didn't just have a family. His family was murdered by vampires, and they made him watch. Like it was like a damn, that's a sadistic story there, Whistler.
Yeah, so he's seen in the movie. He still wears his wedding ring. Maybe have some sort of humanity to hold on to. But that would make me turn down a dark road. And I'm not talking black leather jackets.
Maybe, though.
But it definitely comes with the territory.
So Blade comes back to find him. He asks Blade to kill him, and Blade's like, I will not. And Blade's been a pretty badass, pretty stoic character, but you could tell him and Whistler are boys.
There was a scene earlier where Karen's like, oh, you care for him. He's like, no, I don't. I'm a badass. I'm a cold-hearted motherfucker. But he does.
He's like, he makes the weapons, I use the weapons. You're like, all right.
And Karen's like, okay, you like him.
Whistler's like, you're gone soft. You're a wuss. Give me the gun. I'll do it. So Blade puts the gun in his hand and
walks away. We get the old gunshot in the background. We're like, oh, Whistler.
But now Blade's pissed. Blade now is mini montage of him putting his weapons together, unveiling a motorcycle, and he's going to storm Frost's penthouse. Whistler told him not to. He's like, your blood is the key. If they get hands on your blood, they're going to bring back this blood god. You just need to leave to fight another day. Blade has zero intentions of this. He breaks into the lobby on his motorcycle.
Yeah, and there's a whole sick-ass hallway fight.
You mentioned The Matrix earlier. This scene reminded me of the lobby fight in The Matrix when they're going to save Lawrence Fishburne.
A lot of Matrix similarities in the style and the fighting and the costumes. Blade did it first.
Shockingly, not shockingly, Blade runs through these people. He gets to this room where he opens this chamber.
This is like Frost's bedroom where he bangs chicks and goes on his computer to research dead languages. He's in the computer seat trying to look up what the hell's going on. There's like a really bad CGI render of the resurrection plan that Frost has cooking up for the finale of this movie.
We see that render like 10 times.
And then in the background, there's like almost like a casket, like super high-tech, fancy metal-looking bed because the top mechanically rises, and we're seeing, oh, there's some chick in there just taking a little nap. Turns out this is his mom,
who's been banging Frost.
Yeah, oof.
And actually infected his mom.
The actress name, I might not say this correctly, Sana Lathan. I did recognize this actress, and it was because I've seen one movie that I was really into when I was younger, and I recognized her because I was like, God, why am I so attracted to you right now? It's not because you're like,
I think I know what movie you're talking about.
Yeah, she's from Love and Basketball, and I've seen that movie like so many times. I really liked it when I was younger. I was like, I think you're the chick from Love and Basketball. And she totally was.
Did you notice, or were you disturbed by the sexual tension between Blade and his mother?
Well, it was really the mom that was like...
It was the mom.
Being all sultry with him.
Yeah.
Is that the vampire quality of you? Are all vampires like sluts? Because they're like
whispering,
dancing half naked at raves and like rubbing on each other and sucking on necks. And I'm like, does it make you just like a horny bitch?
Yeah, she's like talking, like whispering to Blade, and she's like 3 inches, like half an inch away from his lips.
Yeah, no, her lips are like caressing his lips and his nose while he's like bound, chained up to a wall. I was like, Vanessa, what the hell are you doing, man?
This is a problem.
She looks no older than the day she died. This is where we get just that truth bomb that you were talking about. Frost was the one who bit her, and apparently she came back to life later and has just been banging her ever since, and she was okay with it.
Yeah, she's like his hooer.
There's no other way to put it.
Being distracted by his mom, they get the jump on him. They subdue him with like cattle prods and pokers, and they take him to what is called the Temple of Eternal Night. And Frost plans to perform this summoning ritual to bring the blood god in. So he has kidnapped all of the vampire elders. He has brought in Blade. He's like, we're doing this. We're bringing the blood god back.
Okay, not to put on my tinfoil hat, bringing back race into the situation. But remember when I said put a pin in it, that they were pushing that Slavic origin of vampires?
Mm-hmm.
Where does this movie take place?
Los Angeles.
And so they go to this place in Los Angeles called the Temple of Eternal Night. And Frost says that's what the vampire ancestors called it. So I feel like they were really pushing the Slavic origin story, but now somehow there's this ancient temple in Los Angeles. So I'm thinking this would have been Mexico, where the Mayans the original vampires, and then those dirty Europeans, like they always do, the whites. They just whitewash history. They just discredit all the other races that did something first. They're just like, nope, sorry, Mayans, we're vampires.
Yeah, I don't think the Mayans were vampires. They'd still be alive.
Well, then how do you explain this? This ancient temple that no one knew about, that predated all of the current old head vampires who don't know the language. How's this temple here?
Maybe they made their way to the West Coast hundreds of years ago. No clue.
All right. I'm looking out for you, Mayans.
Or maybe they built this temple recently and they just didn't know how to use it. But they were like, it's here. It's ready. Maybe there was a really overzealous vampire like 100 years ago who's like, I'm building this temple and eventually we're bringing the blood god around.
Look, I'm just saying, keep your head on a swivel because the whites appropriated vampire culture and I'm not here for it. It's deeply rooted in Mayan culture.
Vampires?
I'm saying from this reveal in this movie.
Oh, from this movie, I'm like, no, it's definitely an Eastern European folklore.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like in this movie, they say here's this ancient temple that's been here for like millenniums, and it's in Los Angeles. And I'm like, that was Mexico. So where's the origin, vampires, according to Blade?
Did they say it had been there for millennium?
Look, you throw out the word ancient temple, it's not recently constructed in the last 200 years. That's all I'm saying.
What if they deconstructed it and they shipped it over to be reconstructed here?
Well, then I smell conspiracy theory.
Because they mentioned the vampires are constantly moving, right? And Blade and Whistler were constantly moving with them.
Maybe it's like the Kroll Fortress.
It's the Black Temple or the Black Fortress.
The Black Fortress. Black Temple. Yeah, no. It might be the Black Fortress.
Okay, see, now we're getting somewhere.
Now we're cooking with oil. All right, I'm done with my not serious conspiracy theory.
So Blade, it is weird, though, that this temple just exists underground
in Los Angeles.
LA. It is. I'll give you that. So Blade is put in this like blood chamber where it drains him of his blood, and he's weak. The ritual is happening. There's a bunch of the bloods moving around. The blood CGI's, it is what it is. Lightning comes into effect. Everyone gets lightning hitting their head.
It's always lightning.
Karen frees Blade, and he's weak. He's in the thirst state. He's thirsty.
He'd be thirsting.
Doesn't have his serum, and Karen says she has the bite marks already from earlier in the movie, and she's like,
he's looking at Karen like she's a grade A quench.
Snack. She is a snack.
Looking like a liquid snack over there, Karen.
So he drinks from Karen. I mean, he's drinking for a solid like 30 seconds. He is getting his thirst on.
It seems like this was cut to be like a pseudo sex scene.
Yeah, there's like a whole orgasm scene.
They're shirtless. It's a lot of like humping and like,
I think she says don't stop a few times.
Stephen Norrington, I know what you're doing.
This was really just all about his Blade fanfic that he wrote as a kid.
Yeah, he's just living on his fantasy. And I'm sure he really wanted to do it with his cameo on the street corner. He's like, no, I think we should do it again. And it's like that Quentin Tarantino thing with Selma Hayek.
With the feet.
Yeah. We'll spare you guys.
Yeah.
But we all know what we're talking about.
So Blade gets extra full power because now he's had some human blood and he just yells, Frost! He wants Frost. He is like animalistic in Frost. But the ritual completes and Frost becomes the blood god. Like the blood god is within him.
La Magra.
Now it's time for it to go. Blade kills his mom. I'm done here. You're done. You're dead. Then here's the final fight. I do want to say this about Blade and the fight choreography. Again, I've used the word stylized a lot. The choreography is very stylized. He makes a lot of unnecessary movements. Like even when he's like jumping and he's constantly like moving his wrists a little extra. It's like very over the top.
I mean, you could say that about almost like 90% of sword fights in movies. Star Wars, they do it all the time.
But even outside of the sword fights, like just all of his movements, even his fighting movements, it's how they choreographed it. It's fine, but it's very noticeable. It's like, yeah, you're doing a lot of extra moves there, pal.
And all the punch sound effects don't help.
There is a fun scene. Quinn, when they captured him, took Blade's sunglasses. Blade fucks up Quinn. The glasses fly in the air. Blade grabs him, puts his sunglasses back on, and that's when you know it is on.
You're fucked.
Dude, yeah. The sunglasses are back on. Blade's back in full uniform. He gets his sword. Frost gets his sword, and we get a final sword fight.
We get the showdown of the century.
Frost won't die because he's blood god now.
Yeah, he literally gets cut in half, and he's like stretching out. There's a blood trail.
He slinkies.
He does slinky, and he slink on slurps back into one piece. And so you're like, how do you beat him now?
At one point, he's like moving at the speed of light.
Seems overpowered.
Blade's like, I have an idea. Gets to his serum through some nifty sword throws and just starts hucking at him like throwing stars.
Yeah, like darts.
The serum makes vampire blood explode. So he sticks him with like 10 of these. The last one, he throws up in the air, roundhouse kicks it. It flies straight into Frost's forehead.
Which is the most Blade thing to do.
Yeah. Frost like bubbles up like and explodes. And Frost defeated.
And Blade just bladed.
When they escape when they climb out of the temple, Karen tells Blade, hey, I can make you the cure. We can do this. And Blade, like we were saying before, he has this choice to be,
I was like, here it is, the serum ultimatum.
Yeah. And he says, why don't you just create an improved version of my thirst serum because the crusade is not over. And you're like, all right.
Blade 2's coming.
And then we got our final scene.
Get this extra scene. This is in Moscow, and there's a guy. It's very reminiscent of the opening scene in LA with the girl trying to seduce this guy into the Club Blood, the bloodbath rave.
They have the same dialogue.
And then you've seen this movie, literally, because you just watched it. Who's 2 steps behind? It's Blade. Now, would the Russian vampires know who Blade is? Is there a whole UN with vampires and they discuss vampire problems? Or is it really localized?
It looked like this vampire knew that was Blade.
They're coordinated. You gotta watch out.
Now, this is where the temple should be.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, the ancient temple should be in Europe.
Are there multiple temples?
Yeah, maybe it's all a ruse.
It's impossible to know.
Well, that is Blade, 1998, directed by Stephen Norrington. All right, you got any nitpicks?
Nitpicks.
I do not, actually. I usually don't when it comes to these superhero movies. How about you?
The only nitpick I have is Frost's plan, because he wants to essentially eradicate all humans and make everyone vampires, but that's the food supply.
I have an answer for you for this.
They just eat cows and chickens and animals?
No. So this was actually cut out of the original 140-minute test screening. There's a scene where Frost is sitting there after he captured Karen, and they're talking, right? They're talking back and forth. Oh, Karen's like antagonizing him. I can cure you. You're not even a real vampire. You're just lucky you got bit, yada, yada. That scene was supposed to go for maybe another 5 minutes Karen was going to ask him about that. Like, what are you going to do when there's no more humans? They were going to keep some humans and basically stick them in blood bags to harvest them and feed off them. It's actually a plot point in Blade Trinity. If you ever get around to watching that. So that was supposed to be addressed, but they needed to cut the movie down. And that was one of the things that got cut out.
Oh, interesting. Well, I mean, how would I know that if it got cut out?
Exactly.
I'm thinking like you're trying to kill off your food chain, like the food supply. How are you going to survive? And I guess you can make up theories like maybe they'll keep some quartered off for strictly food. But then like you can't feed every single vampire in the world.
Just factory farm them like you do cows with humans.
Make like vegan blood, like almond blood.
Impossible blood. I can't believe it's not blood.
That was my only nitpick because, like you said, it's science fiction, it's fantasy, it's a comic book movie.
That is a plot hole, which was supposed to be addressed, and they took it out. So that does leave it as a plot hole because you didn't leave it in to explain it. I think that's a worthy nitpick.
We take these movies with a grain of salt because it's a comic book movie, and that's going to transition perfectly into our first talking point. I think we both have things to say and stuff to bring up about its similarities to the movie Spawn.
Yeah.
Which we, funny enough, watched and reviewed last season, earlier in the year, and which we have covered at the top of this podcast. We hated.
We did.
So let me get your just general thoughts. Like what were you thinking? And was it because we watched Spawn that this was in the back of your mind? I mean, obviously for me, because I've never seen Spawn, but like if you've seen Spawn before and you watch this movie, would you make that connection? Just tell me some bullet points here.
I wouldn't have drawn the comparison to Spawn if we hadn't watched it previously, but my gripe with this movie is the exact same as with Spawn, and I would have come to that conclusion either way, in which, I discussed this in the Spawn episode, where when you have the source material of comic books, it's a trap to just take the character and make them as they are in the comic book panels, because they don't have personality in the comic book panels. They just have lines of dialogue.
But that's how you make the personality.
That's how you make the personality, but when they're just, you need the filler in between. Let's take one of the most famous ones, Iron Man, the most recent iteration of Iron Man. They gave him so much personality that he now is his own character. We don't really know much of Blade besides, just the specific lines of dialogue. When you make a live action version of a comic book character, you can't just use what's in the comic book panels, because that's meant for imagination to fill in the rest. When you're watching a movie, you don't want imagination to fill in the rest. You want dialogue and visual appeal to fill in the blanks. And that's something Marvel has done really, 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 really well recently. But this movie and Spawn, but you could tell with Frost is not as big of a comic book. He is a villain in the comic books, but doesn't have as many panels, we'll call them, in the comics. So you have to take creative license a little bit and write in his personality. He was a much better character. He had a lot of depth to his character, and he was just a better storyline than Blade was. Blade was a great character, but the character's personality and the dialogue was just bland.
That just reminded me of the show Moon Knight, because the main bad guy in that show is a character named Arthur Harrow. And again, he was like just a rando, like one issue bad guy, like a common man. And then they just like spun it off into this whole full fleshed out character. And just kind of noticing the similarities. 1, it's the year of release. 2, it's the distribution company. 3, these are black characters front and center. We dropped the fun fact on our Spawn episode that was the first superhero movie that had an African-American character front and center headlining the show. This one, same thing. Wesley Snipes heading up the show. A very similar context. Spawn was demons. Blade is vampires, monsters, so demonic, Bibles. There's like similarities there. The way they look, the Spawn necro skin, what was it called?
Necro suit or something?
Necro skin, necroplasmic suit or something. Black and white. Blade is just all black leather, matte, tactical, metal, black shotgun, almost Terminator, Judgment Day status.
Very iconic.
Just like visually very similar. It came out in the similar year, and it came out from literally the same distribution company. Now, I do got to say this. Shame on Spawn, because I remember a talking point that we brought up was that they actually whitewashed his best friend.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot Homeboy's name, but he ends up with Spawn's wife.
Mm-hmm.
Like he becomes a pseudo father for his daughter. In this one, funny enough, so Marvel actually was going to make Blade white. And David Goyer, who's the writer, like shut it down. He's like, no, like we can't do that. Wesley Snipes didn't even know about that. Funny enough, I gotta give kudos to Blade on that part, David Goyer in specific. But yeah, that almost happened. And then in this one, we had, like I said, we got Karen and we have Eric Brooks, and we're like, cool, like 2 badass black characters front and center. If Spawn didn't technically do it first, this would have been a way better entry for black characters being the main character in a superhero movie. This movie really was the starting point for good superhero movies besides 1989's Batman, Tim Burton's Batman, because David Goyer did say on record that they would refer to Tim Burton's Batman a lot and the treatment of this movie. We gave a lot of kudos to 89's Batman for taking a comic book character and trying to give it some serious treatment in places where it really needed it, making it dark, visually dark, the subject matter dark. This movie definitely did that. And this is coming out right after Batman and Robin, coming out after Shaq's Steel, and it's coming out after Spawn. And this is the first, I want to say, mainstream Marvel movie that was critically well received and brought in a lot of money as well. Because before that, there was Howard the Duck and some weird ass 1940s Captain America movies. And that's it.
I think there was some Fantastic Fours.
There's that unreleased Fantastic Four from 94, which I so want to watch for this podcast. Yes. I don't know if it is available anywhere, but
we have to find it.
We got to dig up that buried treasure. So Blade was really the kickoff starting point that gave studios, I think, a little bit of trust in superhero movies, because soon after we get 2000s X-Men and Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, which were more momentum for superhero movies in those dire straits of the 90s. I mean, we talked about in the Spawn episode, we said the state of comic book movies was dire. So I think this one really helped out the case. Now, would Hollywood revisit it later and try again? Probably, because they are always trying to recycle ideas and they lack creativity. So they're like, oh, let's try the comic book stuff again. But you know what? Blade 1998, it was there in the moment. Norrington and Goyer and Wesley Snipes, who was a producer on this movie, they did a good job bringing legitimacy to the superhero genre.
I did too. And this ended up getting a trilogy that ran through the mid 2000s. They're going to be remaking it. There's going to be a Blade in 2025.
Yeah. Is it 2025? Because the director dropped out like 2 or 3 days before they were supposed to start shooting. And then the writer's strike happened. And then now we're kind of experiencing Marvel fatigue, and they're reconstructing the entire game plan for their television series, for their movies. There's the Jonathan Majors drama off screen. So yeah, Marvel's kind of in
all I know is what the internet tells me.
They're in a shaky spot right now. But yes, Mahershala Ali is supposed to he's supposed to take up the mantle of Blade.
The only terrible part about this movie is that it's set to cast Jared Leto. I'm wondering if they're going to bring Morbius into this.
Oh, I did read that the director originally was going to be an uncredited Morbius. So funny that you bring that up.
Would it be Morbin time? Because he's already a Marvel character.
Yeah, but he's Sony-verse. And Sony and Disney have like this weird relationship where they just can't agree who has control of the kid. They don't, it's like, is Spider-Man mine, but he's more successful in yours? Oh, Michael Keaton is the Vulture in Homecoming, but we're just going to like bring him into Morbius and make people think it's part of the same universe. Oh, it's not. Sony's just like, they're out of pocket, man.
Sony don't cur.
Our next talking point here, and I think it's our last because I don't see anything else written on here, but the reshoots. Now,
yeah.
So I heard somewhere from some outlet, I couldn't really find a whole lot of other evidence to back it up, but the one outlet, so take it with a grain of salt, said that there was a test screening.
Disaster.
For whatever reason, didn't do well with audiences, and it actually ended up delaying the Blade movie. Just how we're going through it today.
6 months. Yeah,
so this actually pushes it beyond Spawn. So Spawn comes out initially first by New Line. And I remember talking about the Spawn, the episode, Michael Jai White is the star of Spawn. And he said, 1, talking about the test screening, and 2, talking about New Line and their involvement with both movies. So 1, the test screening, he said he saw the test screening. He's like, oh yeah, it was great. Cool. And then a whole tangent that we went off on that movie was how Marchese Dippity Doodah was like, oh, okay, I'm going to add 400 more CGI effects for whatever reason, if he just wanted to have it super CGI based or to just change the story. But he ultimately did change a lot of the plot and the story with his butcher job post test screening shit show. The Spawn test screening apparently was good, according to Michael Jai White. And then when he sits down for the theatrical version, He's literally saying, "What the fuck is this?" And then so it's funny because in the opposite case for this one, the test screening went horrible, and then they did a bunch of cuts and reshoots, and then it turned out better. The second point I want to bring up for the new line was Michael Jai White. He also said that because of that butcher job and the lack of monitoring, supervision, there's just a complete like oversight on the treatment of the movie from the distribution company. So then because of the failure of Spawn, New Line was all over the Blade project. They're like, we can't let this be Spawn 2.0. Mm-hmm. Now, what did you read about the reshoots? Like, what did they add?
So the entire final sword fight scene was added post after the test screening. It apparently had a really weird ending. Audiences didn't love. They cut out what they saw as,
Did you find out what it was?
No, they basically had CGI that turned it into that the Blood King turned into a giant like blood monster with a body made of blood.
That's sounding awful like Malbolgia all over again. No thanks.
Which yeah. So he became like a large swirling mass of blood, and they scrapped it because they said we can't get the effects to look right. Like the audiences won't be happy. And kudos to you.
That's how you do. Shout out Spawn.
To you.
They didn't know when to hit the brakes.
Apparently, it is a special feature on the DVD release, so that's fun. Then they cut out certain scenes they saw as superfluous, such as, again, explaining the plan, Frost plan. So you do end up cutting out some things that could matter. They also cut out a Stan Lee cameo.
I did read that, so negative points there. Come on, guys.
The one last little fun fact I'll have for this movie is Wesley Snipes signed on to this in 1996. Only after...
I know where this is going.
Only after the failed attempt to get a Black Panther movie made.
He was trying so hard to get that off the ground. And then at the end of the day, for whatever reason, red tape, rights, whatever, multiple different drafts of a script, he just, I don't want to say settled for Blade, but he's like, fine, if I can't have this, I might as well take this opportunity and be Blade.
Yeah, because for casting, it was between him, Lawrence Fishburne, and Denzel. Although they said Wesley.
I think LL Cool J too.
I think LL Cool J wanted it. He like reached out. He was like, I heard you're doing Blade. I want Blade.
I also have some fun facts. Actress Diana Lee Inosanto, who is currently known as Morgan Elsbeth on Star Wars Ahsoka. She does make an uncredited appearance in this. Apparently she was a vampire in the Bloodbath Rave.
Oh, she was an extra in there. Nice.
Also, Jeff Amata. We shouted him out in Escape from LA. Uncredited stuntman. He was like a henchman, so I'm assuming he's probably one of Frost guys.
Got his ass kicked, yeah.
So again, we gotta make a category for our uncredited homies making appearances in these movies. Last thing I want to bring up is I always like to watch the credits because I worked in the industry. Maybe I know somebody, and I did. Shout out Tony Latanzio, the construction coordinator. We're actually Instagram buddies. A construction coordinator for movies is the one in charge of making sure those sets get built. So if that ancient temple was a constructed set, great job, Tony. Look great.
I would assume it was constructed. Unless they found one.
Unless it was actually ancient in LA. Hey, Nick, why don't you hit me with a sarcastic selling point here?
How about we bring in Wesley Snipes to redo Demolition Man, but with vampires?
I said, I want to do over Spawn, except we'll replace demons with vampires, and we'll redeem all the terribleness while we're at it. This is a martial arts Van Helsing with Matrix swag.
I can dig it.
Final review. Fight.
Let's look at what the other guys are saying about 1998's Blade. I almost said Spawn.
Careful now.
Rotten Tomatoes. Critics, they're coming in at a measly 58. What?
Yeah, a little disappointing. But the people have it at a 78, so...
All right, way to up that popcorn. That tomato can shove it. Moving over to Metacritic, the critics are giving it an even worse 47 score. Translates to a 4.7 on the popcorn scale.
People are giving it an 8.1.
And now, will it slice or will it dice? Our blood-sucking score from IMDb, 7.1. We're getting good at this. I like this new tradition.
Real good.
Getting real good at this. They're going to get really long, and convoluted, and we will just never miss.
We're that good. People need to start recognizing that.
Nick, I believe it's your turn to hit me with a laughable log line, followed by popcorn points, followed by your final overall thoughts on this movie. Hit me.
A half man, half vampire hunts down vampires with few words, unnecessary martial arts moves, and a lot of CGI blood. Oh, James, I'm conflicted.
I'm happy you're going first.
I know. So here's why I'm conflicted. So let me just tell you where my head's at. There's a lot of reasons that I could knock this movie down for reasons that I've knocked other movies down. But I found it so enjoyable. It's tugging at my heartstrings. And I think I have to give this one a 6.7. It's not great acting, especially from Wesley Snipes, not his fault. I think that's the script's fault. It's good acting from Christopherson. It's great acting from Dorff as Frost. It's great acting from Bush. I really hope we're saying her name correctly.
We're so sorry, Karen.
I'm so sorry. The CGI, give or take, don't need it. There's some scenes, the car chase scene, the over stylized fights, but entertainment value covers a multitude of sins, and this had it. I feel like when New Line went into this, they said, you know what people want to see? They want to see Blade kicking ass, and we got a whole lot of that. And I appreciate that. So I'm giving it a 6.7. I'm forgiving a lot of sins that I normally would, but my goodness, if I just didn't enjoy watching this movie.
And now the perspective is really tough because we're coming off of Spawn. So that was in the back of my head the whole time. And we most recently watched Maximum Overdrive, which we just absolutely demolished verbally because it was so bad. So I'm trying not to have a biased opinion and comparing movies in my head of which one did it right. And at least it's not Maximum Overdrive. And, but it's no Minority Report. Oh, this, oh, that. So just face value, looking at this movie, I'll hit you with my laughable logline and my points.
Let's do it.
Mine was a little bit similar to yours. I said, a half human, half vampire, 100% cool guy, makes his life mission to kill all vampires hiding in the shadows. And this bloodthirsty journey gets real awkward when he finds out his biggest threat yet has been banging his mom, who he thought was super dead. 7.4 popcorn points.
Nice.
And just to kind of echo the sentiments, I really did enjoy watching this movie. Like you touched upon with Batman, its influence on future superhero movies. I don't want to do that here, because if I did that, it would probably be similar to your Batman score, kind of up in the 8s. But I think I got to give it some kudos because it was the first successful superhero movie for Marvel that kind of paved the way. I'm saying this is a very significant stepping stone for Marvel feature films. Because like I said, before that, it was Howard the Duck. And when you're coming off Steel, you're coming off Blank Man, what Photon Woman, Tank Girl, it's hard to follow it. So one, I just gotta give it kudos. Two, like I said, it did a lot of things first. I thought The Matrix came out before this. It didn't. Came out after. Fast and Furious came out after. He was rocking the Dodge Charger first. He was rocking the monochromatic look of The Matrix first. I enjoyed the martial arts scenes. They were trying to take really good care of this movie, not making, whitewashing the characters or stepping back when it's time to step back and the CGI is not quite there. That's going to get positive points for me. The downfall is the plot is a little, just lackluster. The bad guy's ambitions is a little unclear. I don't really quite understand Frost's plan. I know we covered it in the deleted scenes of what the remedy would be for his big plot holy plan. But at the end of the day, you're just still like, okay, it's also very similar to Spawn in that sense, in a bad way, because the bad guy's plan was to take over the world and have everyone be a demon or everyone be a vampire. It's always like a big world problem, and we don't need that all the time. The positive points come from the action, the style, the treatment, the overall respect from the director, the writer, to the main actor, Wesley. Couldn't get a Black Panther movie off the ground, but at least he made Blade super cool.
King of Cool. That was just a fun movie to watch.
One last similarity with Spawn. Now that we're updating the scores on our sheets, and I'm just noticing, did you look at the budget of both movies? Exactly the same.
They gave both of them a fair shake.
Which kind of makes sense if it's both from New Line Cinema. They're thinking, okay, superhero movie, shaky waters. We want to do well, so here's $45 million. So Blade takes in $131 million. Spawn takes in 88. So Spawn just doubles it, just barely almost doubles it. And Blade is bringing in a whole lot more. And so are you thinking, is it because word of mouth or is it fan bases?
I'd say fan bases help out a lot. I think Wesley Snipes is a bigger draw than Michael Jai White.
Right.
The late 90s, Wesley Snipes is a huge draw at the box office. And then again, rewatchability. People saw Spawn once and went, nope, not going to see it again.
Yeah.
Don't need to tell friends to go see it. People saw Blade and they tell all their friends, have you seen Blade? We got to see Blade.
Okay. So this is some unseasoned but fresh popcorn in Nick's bag. This is some delicious microwave popcorn, good and buttery, in mine, which comes out to a nice 7.05 score from Just Play It. So I think at the end of the day, we can say we like this movie. Is the story groundbreaking? No. Did it do a whole lot for the superhero genre and the culture? Absolutely. Kudos to Blade. We are correcting the course of season 2 after it has been such a horrible, rough ride. Let's keep this train going. Unfortunately, it won't be next week because we're just going to take a break. We're taking a week off, but don't worry. When we return, we'll be revisiting a very familiar face that we have been on the road with the entire time this year.
On the road?
The road? Who can it be?
You have to tune in 2 weeks to find out.
In the meantime, you should follow us on YouTube and Instagram at Just Play It Podcast. Follow us on X, gon' give it to you, courtesy of Elon Musk at Just Play It Pod. And for right now, we're going to be heading gone. And remember, if you think your mom is dead, you better check that sex casket.
Make sure your mortal enemy's not banging her.
Are all vampires like sluts? Dancing half naked at raves and like rubbing on each other and sucking on necks? Does it make you just like a horny bitch?
I'm not going to give you a gun. I don't know you, but here's some garlic spray.